Welcome to Moments in History channel. Imagine a fortress in the sky, a flat-topped mountain rising abruptly from the Judean desert, overlooking the shimmering, lifeless waters of the Dead Sea. This is Masada. And on this stage, one of history's most dramatic and tragic stories unfolded. A story of defiance, ingenuity, and a terrible final choice. Our story begins in the aftermath of the First Jewish-Roman War, a brutal conflict that had left Jerusalem and its magnificent Second Temple in ruins. The year is 73 CE. While Rome celebrated its victory, a small, defiant flame of rebellion still flickered. Nearly 1,000 Jewish rebels, known as the Sicarii, along with their women and children, held one last stronghold, the formidable fortress of Masada. Years earlier, they had seized this remote palace fortress, originally built by King Herod the Great. It was a brilliant strategic choice. Masada was a natural fortress, with steep, treacherous cliffs on all sides. It had its own water cisterns, vast storehouses filled with grain, oil, and wine, and an arsenal of weapons. From here, the Sicarii could raid nearby communities and defy the might of the Roman Empire. For them, Masada wasn't just a fortress. It was the last bastion of a free Judea, a symbol of their unwavering resistance against the world's greatest superpower. But Rome was not an empire that tolerated loose ends. The existence of this rebel outpost was an insult to their authority, a challenge that had to be crushed. So, they sent their best. The formidable 10th Legion, Legio X Fretensis, under the command of General Lucius Flavius Silva, marched into the desert. An entire legion, numbering around 8,000 soldiers, plus thousands more auxiliaries and Jewish prisoners of war, set up camp at the base of Masada. Their mission was clear: take the fortress, no matter the cost. From the top of Masada, the defenders could see the Roman war machine assembling below. 8 fortified camps sprung up, connected by a wall of circumvallation, a siege wall that completely encircled the mountain. There would be no escape. The Romans were settling in for a long, methodical siege, but how could they possibly assault a fortress perched 1,000 feet in the air? The cliffs were nearly impossible to climb, and any direct assault would be suicidal. The defenders could rain down rocks and arrows on anyone who dared to try. General Silva, a pragmatic and relentless commander, assessed the situation. He knew a conventional attack was doomed. A prolonged siege, starving the defenders out, could take years, given Masada's well-stocked provisions. He needed a different approach, an audacious feat of military engineering that would become as legendary as the siege itself. He identified a weak point, or rather the least impossible point, a rocky spur on the western side of the plateau, which was only about 300 feet below the summit. This is where he would build his path to victory. And so, the work began. Under the searing desert sun, thousands of legionaries and prisoners toiled day and night. They moved earth, rock, and timber, slowly, painstakingly, constructing a massive assault ramp. Imagine the scene: the rhythmic clang of tools, the shouts of centurions, the dust and sweat, all unfolding in the vast, silent emptiness of the desert. The defenders on Masada watched this monstrous structure grow inch by inch, day by day, creeping steadily toward their walls. It was a psychological weapon as much as a physical one, a testament to Rome's unstoppable, grinding power. Months passed. The ramp grew higher and wider, a man-made mountain ascending to meet the natural one. It was an engineering marvel, a colossal undertaking that showcased the sheer logistical genius of the Roman army. Finally, the ramp was complete. Now it was time for the final assault. The legionaries pushed a massive siege tower up the ramp. This wasn't just a ladder. It was a mobile fortress, covered in wet hides to protect it from fire. At its top, it housed artillery like ballistae to clear the walls, and a heavy battering ram to smash through them. The moment of truth had arrived. The siege tower reached the fortress wall, and the heavy ram began its rhythmic, destructive work. Thud, thud, thud. The sound echoed across the plateau, a death knell for the defenders. Inside the fortress, the Sicarii and their families knew the end was near. Their stone defenses, which had seemed so impenetrable, were about to be breached. They fought back desperately, throwing stones and flaming torches, but it was no use. The Roman war machine, was Relentless. Soon, a section of the wall crumbled, but the Romans were met with another surprise. Behind the stone wall, the defenders had hastily built a second, inner wall made of wood and earth. This type of wall was clever. It absorbed the shock of the battering ram instead of shattering. Frustrated but undeterred, General Silva ordered his men to set it on fire. At first, the wind blew the flames back towards the Romans, and a cheer must have gone up from the defenders. But then, as if by fate, the wind shifted, and the flames roared back, engulfing the wooden wall and turning it into a gateway of fire. The path into Masada was now open. Silva, confident of victory, decided to wait until the next morning to storm the fortress. He posted guards to ensure no one could escape through the fiery breach. He expected a bloody, desperate last stand when his soldiers poured in at dawn. But as the sun rose over the Dead Sea and the Roman soldiers charged into the fortress, they were met not with the clash of swords or the cries of battle, but with an eerie, profound silence. They moved cautiously through the courtyards and buildings, their footsteps echoing in the stillness. What they found was a scene of unimaginable tragedy. The entire community, all 960 men, women, and children, lay dead. They had not been killed by the Romans. According to the historian Flavius Josephus, whose account is our primary source for these events, the defenders had made a pact. Their leader, Eleazar ben Yair, had gathered them together on that final night. He delivered a powerful, moving speech, arguing that it was better to die as free people than to live as slaves. It was better to choose their own end than to suffer capture, torture, and humiliation at the hands of the Romans, to watch their wives dishonored and their children sold into bondage. Faced with this terrible choice, they chose death. But their faith forbade suicide. So, they drew lots. 10 men were chosen to carry out the grim task of killing the others. Each man went to his own family, embraced them one last time, and lay down beside them to be slain. After this was done, the men drew lots again. 1 man was chosen to kill the other 9, and then, as the last man standing, he surveyed the silent scene, set fire to the palace so the Romans could not enjoy its riches, and took his own life. They left their food stores untouched, as a final defiant message to the Romans. We did not die of starvation, but by our own choice. When the Roman soldiers discovered this, they were not triumphant. They were stunned, silent, filled with a strange sense of awe at the defenders' incredible resolve. Josephus tells us that 2 women and 5 children had hidden in one of the underground water channels and survived to tell the tale. It is from them that this account supposedly originates. For centuries, the story of Masada was known primarily through the writings of Josephus. The site itself was abandoned to the desert, its memory fading into legend. It wasn't until the 1960s that extensive archaeological excavations, led by Israeli archaeologist Yigael Yadin, brought Masada back to life. The excavations uncovered the palaces, the storehouses, the synagogue, and even personal belongings of the defenders. They found the Roman camps and the incredible assault ramp, still clearly visible today, a permanent scar on the landscape. The discoveries seemed to confirm much of Josephus' account, turning Masada into a powerful national symbol for the modern state of Israel. It became an emblem of Jewish heroism, a rallying cry of "Masada shall not fall again." For many, it represented the ultimate sacrifice for freedom and the determination to fight for one's identity against overwhelming odds. However, as with many ancient histories, the story is complex. Some modern scholars question aspects of Josephus' narrative. They point out that Josephus, who had himself surrendered to the Romans, might have embellished the story to create a dramatic, heroic tragedy. Archaeological evidence for a mass suicide is not conclusive, though it doesn't disprove it either. Some suggest the final battle may have been more conventional, or that the number of people was smaller, but these debates don't diminish the power of the place. Today, visiting Masada is an unforgettable experience. You can hike up the winding snake path at dawn to watch the sunrise from the summit, or take a cable car up the other side. Standing on that wind-swept plateau, looking out over the vast, timeless desert and the Dead Sea, you can't help but feel the weight of history. You can walk through the ruins of Herod's palace, see the remains of the Roman-style bathhouse, and stand in the ancient synagogue where the defenders may have prayed for the last time. And you can look down at the Roman ramp, a silent, enduring monument to an army's determination and a people's tragic fate. The story of Masada is more than just a historical event. It's a story about human nature, about the choices we make when faced with impossible situations. It forces us to ask profound questions. Is it better to die on your feet than live on your knees? What is the true cost of freedom? And where is the line between heroism and fanaticism? There are no easy answers. Masada is a story of courage, tragedy, and identity, carved into the very stone of the desert. It is a haunting reminder of a desperate last stand, and a symbol of endurance that continues to resonate with people all over the world. It shows us that even in defeat, a story can live on, inspiring and challenging us 2,000 years later. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time to the Siege of Masada. If you found this story as compelling as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to Moments in History channel for more deep dives into history's most fascinating events, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What does Masada mean to you? Let's discuss. Until next time, stay curious.